Buddy, welcome.
Oh, happy Friday, Sretan Pata. I am Sara of Expat in Croatia.
And this is 5-Question Friday.
Every Friday at 5 o'clock Croatia time, answer 5 questions from people who have sent them in on Facebook, Instagram,
Twitter,
LinkedIn, expatinCroatia.com, email,
my consulting sessions,
and then people who stick them to my back, and people who write them in the sky with a plane,
and people who I see at the cafe.
and people who make them into a little paper airplane and shoot them through my window.
And people who write them down beautifully in cursive on papyrus and then put them in a bottle and throw them in the ocean, and then they wash up on the shore and someone delivers them to my house.
Yeah, and people who scream them at me.
So today is a super special episode.
I hope that you enjoy this, and if you do, you should definitely follow Expat in Croatia so you do not miss an episode every Friday.
All right, let's dive into the questions. This first one comes from Linda through our 5-Question Friday form, which you can get to that form at the link in our profile or in our newsletter or on our website, a million different ways. Of course, you can always just send us a question on DM or in comments, but she filled out that form so that she could be featured here. How is the euro going in Croatia? Are Croatian people experiencing significant price rises, as did Italy and Greece when it arrived? How much more expensive is it now to live in Croatia? This is a great question. We have not talked about this yet. So, yes, it's way more expensive. That's the answer in a nutshell. They implemented rules and laws and stuff, and even a monitoring department to prevent price rises when Croatia changed from the Croatian kuna to the euro. It happened anyways. So lots of the prices, most of the prices that we had on December 31st of 2022, they went up significantly in a day. So on January 1st, everything went up. It was just, it hurts. Because we already had inflation last year. Everybody went through inflation last year around the world. And so we got hit twice, first with the inflation and then with the conversion to the euro. And it's been a bit of a bummer. And as far as the percentage increase, it's varied. I've seen, as negligible as maybe like a 5% increase up to like a 60% increase. It's been a bit insane. And we were all worried about that. I mean, most of the people, I honestly can count the number of people who wanted the euro on this hand. Nobody else wanted it because they were so concerned that the prices were going to rise. And that's exactly what had happened. Now, I have spoken with some people who are either economists or people who follow that kind of stuff, and their argument is, well, in the long run, it's going to be beneficial for Croatia, that in the short term, yes, you're going to see price rises, but eventually it's going to even out. And I don't know if that's true. We're just going to have to wait and see. But the thing is Croatia's salaries were already really low. The cost of living here was already high in comparison to the salaries that they have in Croatia. So it wasn't, it was already a bit of a problem, and then it's been exacerbated. Now, there are a lot of factors that go into play in terms of what has been increasing the cost of living in Croatia. All these small priced items, going to the supermarket or buying a coffee or buying small price items, all those prices went up because of inflation and then the euro. But then the cost of real estate, both renting and buying, they have all gone up exponentially. And that's not necessarily associated with the euro. That's associated with a high demand and short supply. And that high demand is for a variety of factors. There are a lot of foreigners who are coming to Croatia, and they have much different expectations on what they are willing to pay for renting or buying property than Croatians. They have more buying power than Croatians, so something that would be really expensive for a Croatian, they would consider a bargain, potentially consider a bargain compared to what it is that they paid back at home wherever it is that they came from. So as a result, there's just kind of been this steady increase of prices. So yes, the cost of living has gone up. There is a site called Numbeo. Whenever anyone asks me about the cost of living, that's the one that I usually give out. I find that their costing is the most accurate. Now, I will admit that I haven't looked at it since the euro changeover, so I need to take a look at it. But for the last few years, I have felt that it was a pretty good representation of what that cost is. And it'll show you Croatia, but then you can also drill down to the different cities. If you'd like a link to that, feel free to send us a DM and I'd be happy to send that to you. But yeah, I think that there's definitely an expectation from abroad that Croatia is going to be cheaper than it is, and it isn't. It's not a cheap place. It was very inexpensive, I found, when I first got here, but it has changed, rapidly over the last 11 years, but especially the last probably 3 years or so, things have just gotten a lot pricier. So it's important that if you're thinking about coming here, that you really kind of seek out the information to understand what that cost is like, so that you can understand what to expect. Okay, next question is, it's disappeared on me now. Aisha, this was also a consulting session I had a couple weeks ago before the holidays. If I want to live in Croatia the rest of my life, what are the options? I thought that was a great question. So, the simple answer is work or get married. Now, there's a lot of nuance to this because, as I said a few minutes ago, everyone's situation is different. So, when I speak to someone on a consulting session, or my colleague Terry, or Lucia, or Steve, or Lorena, they speak to people to guide them on their situations. We have to understand what their situation is, what their needs are, and what their goals are. We always try and look at the end game. What is it you're trying to accomplish? Do you want to be in Croatia for a year? Do you want to be here for the rest of your life? Do you want to be here just a couple of years? Do you want to work? Do you not want to work? Are you related to anybody? Do you have kids? We have to understand the entire picture so that we can come up with a holistic solution and a recommendation. So there are ways to kind of navigate the system to be able to stay here as long as you possibly can, and that's something that we specialize in, and we have lots of strategies for that. But if we're talking about just in the most simplest of terms, how can you stay in Croatia for the rest of your life? You either marry an EU Croatian citizen or you work. Because if you work for your own company or you work for another company in Croatia, then that will allow you to get residence permits back to back without leaving, and they count towards permanent residence. And you need to have 5 years of continuous temporary residence before you can apply for permanent residence. Once you have permanent residence, you can stay here for as long as you wish. You do not have to apply for citizenship if you don't want to. And many people don't because they have to give up their other nationality. But once you get permanent residence, you never have to apply for residence ever again. You just have to renew your ID. That's what I have right now. So I don't ever have to leave Croatia if I don't want to. If they decide they're not going to give me Croatian nationality, aside from the fact that I will cry in a bathtub, I still don't ever have to leave Croatia even if they say no, which is a giant privilege that I completely appreciate. So that's the simple answer. If you want to understand in your specific situation how you can stay in Croatia forever, contact us. We're happy to help you figure that out. Next, this came from Dana. I spoke to her on a consulting session this week. Do you recommend renting before buying? Yes, I absolutely do. I need a pausa for some water. My throat's on fire. Okay. So yes, I absolutely recommend renting before you buy. I have spoken to tons and tons of people who are interested in buying without ever stepping foot in Croatia. And they want to talk to a real estate agency that we recommend so that they can find a property to buy when they're not here. And this is not a judgment thing, not at all. Everyone's situation is completely different. My recommendation is that you come and rent here and live here before you buy, because it's important to know where it is you want to live. 90% of the people I consult with, they want to come to Split. Most of them have never been to Split. Now, Split's awesome. I love Split. Obviously, I love Split. I think everybody knows that I love Split. But I came to Split before I moved here, and I liked it, and I thought, this is the place for me. And Split's very nice, and very rarely does anyone move to Split and they're like, you know what, Split's not for me. But as far as, it's not just Split, it's like, okay, well, which neighborhood do you want to live in? You know, like the first neighborhood I lived in Split was Jian. Out closer to the edge of Split, okay? And I thought it was amazing because the second I walked into the first apartment that I had, all I could see was this 300-degree sea view. I didn't look at the rest of the apartment, so I didn't see all the terrible, terrible flaws in that plan. But I really loved looking out at the sea. I thought that was great. And the second apartment I lived in was also there. It was just down the street. And again, it had, you know, a nice sea view. And I really thought, like, why would I want to go anyplace else? And a friend of mine, he had suggested the neighborhood that I'm in now, and he grew up here all his life, and he was like, I'm telling you, it doesn't matter. Try something else, because this is all you've known so far, and you may like something else better. And he was absolutely right. And I haven't had a sea view in 8 years, more now. And I really love where I live. You know, and I wouldn't have known that had I not given something else a try. And you just never know if something's going to work for you. Not, you know, even within a city, or maybe you just don't like the city. Maybe you come to Split and you're like, this is really too touristy for me. I'd rather try Zadar. But if you come here and you immediately buy a property, that's kind of a big thing to kind of undo. Whereas breaking a rental contract is a lot easier. So I definitely encourage anyone who has the capability to come here and either be in an Airbnb or get a rental contract and just kind of explore Croatia and see what makes sense for you and your situation and your family and your needs. Because every city in Croatia, I feel like, is very unique. I've heard comments that like, oh, it's all the same. It's not all the same. Dubrovnik is different than Split, which is different from Zadar, which is different from Rijeka, different from Pula, different from Zagreb, different from Osijek, Karlovac. Like, they're all different. They all have their own personalities, their own quirks and idiosyncrasies, own dialects for that matter. Some places are a lot more decentralized. Some of them are a lot more close together, so you don't have to have a car. Some places you absolutely have to have a car. Some transportation systems are better than others, so I really would encourage anyone who wants to buy in Croatia, that's fabulous. But come here, kind of feel it out, see where it is you want to be first, and then make a move. So thank you for the question, Dana.
So thank you so much for being here. I so love doing this with you every Friday. So I am Sara of Expat in Croatia. I hope you have a beautiful weekend. Bye. Vidimo se. Ciao.